So today I want to dip briefly into paleontology. Jamaica's rocks are rich in fossils. There are corals, rudis, bivalves, gastropods, foraminifera, or what we call forams, and many, many others. Most of these fossils are hard-shelled organisms made of calcium carbonate, commonly preserved within the island's limestones. I even visited limestone quarries high in the hills and found coral fossils there, clear evidence that these areas were once underwater. But this video isn't about corals, bivalves, or shell-bearing organisms. Instead, it's about an extraordinary discovery reported about 25 years ago in the journal Nature. Not another foram or rudis, but a mammal. I'm talking about Jamaica's walking manatee, Prehistoric portelli. So stick with me as we walk through this landmark paper and explore the remarkable anatomy of one of the most fascinating prehistoric creatures ever discovered on the island. The discovery of the so-called walking manatee was documented by Daryl Domnin in a 2001 paper published in Nature. So modern manatees, or sea cows, are fully aquatic animals. This discovery, however, was very different. First, the fossil material is extremely old, dating back to the Eocene, roughly 50 million years ago. Second, and most remarkably, this animal was capable of walking on land, even though it likely spent much of its time in water. So, Domnin noted, and I quote, this animal was fully capable of locomotion on land with 4 well-developed legs, a multivertebral sacrum, and a strong sacroiliac articulation that could support the weight of the body out of water, as in land mammals. Aquatic adaptations show, however, that it probably spent most of its time in the water. End quote. So the fossil was discovered at Seven Rivers in the parish of St. James, within a roughly 5-meter thick stratigraphic section of the Guys Hill member of the Chapelton Formation, and we discussed members and formations in a previous video. The site is exceptionally fossil rich and yielded hundreds of bones, mainly from aquatic vertebrates, as well as fossils of a primitive rhinoceros and possibly a primate. Remarkable. The name Prehistoric portelli reflects both the animal's unique biology and the people behind its discovery. Prehistoric comes from the Greek pisos, meaning on foot or walking, and serine, the root word of the word sirene. And the species name portelli honors Roger W. Portel, the discoverer and co-investigator on the site. So with all of that in mind, the next questions are obvious. What did it look like? How did it move? And what did it eat? Prehistoric was almost certainly a plant eater, feeding mainly on aquatic vegetation such as seagrasses and water weeds, much like modern sea cows. However, its robust build and early evolutionary form suggest that it may also have browsed on plants along the water's edge. It likely walked along the sea floor or dug for food in shallow environments, combining aquatic feeding with limited terrestrial activity. In terms of size, it may have resembled a large, heavy-bodied pig and possibly even approached the size of a modern hippopotamus. Its facial features probably very similar. They're probably very similar to those of the modern dugongs or manatees. In fact, a few years ago, During a visit to the American Museum of Natural History in New York, I saw an exhibition on sea cows. And as a non paleontologist, let me tell you, the resemblance between the skulls of modern sea cows and Pisacine was very striking. Uh, Overall, Pisacine lived a semi aquatic lifestyle, comfortably in the water, but still fully capable of moving on land. So, yeah. So the discovery of the walking manatee is significant because it changed how we understand the early history of sea cows. Unlike modern manatees and dugongs, which are fully aquatic, Pisacine had four well-developed legs that allowed it to move on land, along with a skull and rib structure similar to today's sirenians. The combination it suggests an animal that lived a semi-aquatic, hippo-like lifestyle, spending time both in the water and on land. What makes this find especially important is that it shows that some of the earliest sea cows were not fully marine. Instead, they still relied on land for movement while also adapting to life in shallow coastal waters. The fossils from Jamaica provide a rare snapshot of the lifestyle, helping scientists better understand how modern sea cows came to be entirely in the sea. So, to bring this to a close, Pisacine is one of those discoveries that quietly reminds us just how remarkable Jamaica's geology really is. Hidden within our limestones are not just corals and shells, but the remains of animals that lived very different lives from anything we see today. Uh, this fossil shows us that at one point in Jamaica's past, there were large plant eating mammals moving between land and water in shallow coastal environments. And perhaps the most importantly, this discovery placed Jamaica firmly on the global scientific map. A fossil found in a limestone unit in St. James helped reshape how scientists think about sea cows worldwide. That's no small thing. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.